Hey guys, I'm an Australian who's been living in China for the past 10 years or so. I wanted to give my take on living here, moving here, and how to move here. I see a lot of videos about it and they're pretty good, but I wanted to just give my take. What I'm going to do is reiterate what a lot of people have said about just coming here first as a tourist. Do that. Absolutely come here first as a tourist, because you might find that you don't even gel with the place. I did, as soon as I first came here. My first time was 2012. I felt immediately comfortable and at home. That made me want to come back. And then the second time I came back, I wanted to come back again. So do that because you'll know pretty quickly whether you kind of feel the vibe here is, for you or not. And yeah, like I said, a lot of people it's not, but a lot of people it is too. So, check that out. Tourist visas are not even needed for many countries in the world. I think there's about 50 countries in the world right now that don't even need a tourist visa. You can just come up and stay for anywhere between 10 and 30 days. Okay, so do that first. And now, if you then decide that you want to live here, there's a number of options. And the first one and the most common one, and the one that I'm using right now, is a Z visa, a work visa. Okay, that's if you work for a company that's based in China. It might be a Chinese company, or it might be an international company that's got a Chinese office and you're working for them in China. You'll still be with a Z visa working here. You do need a couple of things for that. The most one is you're not going to get a work visa unless you've got some kind of university degree. A diploma is not enough. A trade certificate is not enough. Nothing else is enough except a university degree. And the other thing you need is a clean criminal check. If you've been convicted for any crime back in your home country, you're not going to get a work visa in China. Okay, that's a work visa. I'm gonna later on. I'll talk more about the job opportunities in China and how they've changed over the time that I've been here. And the second one is a business visa. And a business visa sounds like a work visa, but it's different. What it is if you're doing business with a Chinese company or a number of Chinese companies, that is, are you buying Chinese-made products and exporting them back into your home country or other countries, or are you selling products to China? Okay, so if you're active doing that, you're not actually working here, but you're based here, and you need to be in China to do that business. China welcomes you. China loves business. Of course, it's very much a manufacturing powerhouse in the world. And businessmen and women are very welcome here, and you'd be here on a business visa. In fact, they're kind of more open than work visas, because you can live in other parts of the country and you can move around without the government really even caring where you're based. You're not tied to a particular company and location, as long as you can show that you've got a letter of invitation from a company saying that we want this person in China to help our business, then you can come in and do that. Okay. Next one is a study visa. This is obviously a lot different to the first two. You can come here as a student, enroll in a Chinese university, and do your study in China. You will have a lot of problems if you don't speak Chinese, though, because most of the universities are obviously going to be speaking Chinese. There may be a couple of subjects that you can get by if you don't have Chinese, but honestly, I wouldn't recommend it unless you've got at least a mid-level, ability in Chinese fluency. Okay. Another one is marriage. Okay. You've probably heard that if you marry a Chinese national, you can stay here as a spouse. And you won't be treated as a citizen, but you're married to a citizen, and therefore you can stay in China under a marriage visa if you are married to that Chinese citizen, that Chinese person. You can't work while you're doing that, though. Okay, just make that clear. If you're going to then get a job while you're here, married to a Chinese, you then need to switch to a work visa, or if you're going to start studying, you switch to a study visa and that sort of thing. So the marriage visa is really more of a fallback option if you happen to be married to a Chinese citizen. Okay, but I know people here that are here with a marriage visa. It's not very common, but it's definitely doable. And the last one that I'm going to mention is one that I haven't heard anybody else mention at all. And that is creating your own Chinese company. My friend, I've got an Australian friend that did exactly that. He didn't want to work for a Chinese company. He didn't want a business visa. or anything else. He wanted to work for himself with his own company, and he hired a lawyer to set up a Chinese company. And once he actually got that, then he can then employ people. And of course, the first person that he employs is himself. And when his company that he has set up employs himself, then he's given himself a work visa. Okay, so it's pretty cool. And those companies, those dollar companies, they're not dollar. They're more expensive than that, but I'll call them dollar companies. They can employ 2 foreigners and give them work visas. Okay, so, it's very uncommon. That's the only case that I've heard, but he's doing it, and it's successfully, he's staying in China, with that arrangement, and it is possible to do, but you've got to know your stuff. You've got to get a good lawyer who knows Chinese corporate law like that to be able to do it as well. Okay, so they're the forms of visa, and absolutely that's the most important thing before you even think of coming here. I mean, apart from, coming here as a tourist first and seeing if you like it. Now I'm going to talk about employment options and employment trends for foreigners, and it's changed a lot. And just to give you a little bit of background, let's say 20 years ago, China needed 2 main things. It needed expertise, and it needed some English language. So the 2 main groups of foreigners that were really being welcomed were engineers, experts in their field that could come and help Chinese companies to be able to compete with the world, make products that were world class, and of course then to be able to train enough Chinese to speak some level of English, to be able to do that as well. So they were the 2 big ones: English language and engineers and other technical experts. Since then, it's changed a lot because more and more Chinese have gone through the system and become engineers. And the Chinese engineers, whether they're hardware engineers or software engineers or chemical engineers or any kinds of engineers, civil engineers, structural engineers, the Chinese engineers are at a point now. A lot of them speak English. They're very good at what they do, and the foreign engineers are just not as needed anymore. Those jobs are still around. If you are a very highly qualified technical person, you have to have a degree in it, of course, but that's a given. Then you'll be fine, but it's a much less amount of those jobs around than there used to be. And as a bit of a story to that, there's bars around China that are made for foreigners, like the Irish pubs and things like that, right? And they used to be made mostly for engineers, but now the engineers are leaving China because, not all of them, of course, like I said, and those bars are really struggling because those guys were paid lots of money. Okay, they were on really good salaries, and they just were pretty openly spending, they were living Western white lifestyles in China, and those bars, those pubs were catering for that. And a lot of them are gone. So those bars and pubs have been struggling, to reorganize themselves, because English teaching is still there, but English teaching has evolved. It really has. It's much stricter to get into English teaching now. You always needed to have a degree to do English teaching, like any job here. But it was kind of, I don't know. It was not strictly enforced, and then you would need to have some sort of qualification saying that you know how to teach English, which would be something like a TEFL certificate or something like that. Those jobs are still kind of there, but they're stricter. You need to be much more. There's much more proof needed on your degree now, and also experience doing some kind of teaching. But the new kind of teaching that has grown, and this is the job that I have now, is subject teaching. That is teaching science, teaching maths, teaching history, teaching swimming, teaching PE. Teaching all kinds of things like that, but in an immersive English environment. So my students, for example, I teach grade 4 in an international IB school, and my students are all fluent English. The need is not there to teach them English like it used to be. For these schools, there's still a lot of schools that need the English teachers, don't get me wrong, they're still there as well. But the better careers now, as far as a career is concerned in China, are these subject teachers, and subject teaching, which is really nice, because you're teaching something that you have a passion in. And if your passion is English language, then sure, just keep teaching English language. but there's just more options open. There's one extra layer of requirement needed, and that is to get into those jobs, you also need to have a teacher's license, a foreign teacher's license. Something like a PGCE is enough. That's what I have, which is a part of the British system. Or if you have a teacher's license in any of the states of the US, that's okay too. And a lot of people do that. But yeah, you can't do it just with a degree and a TEFL certificate anymore if you want one of those jobs. So yeah, just that's something to be aware of. Okay, and that's all I'm going to cover for this video, because I know I'm looking at the time. If you like this video and you want me to do more, I'm very happy to talk about things like insurance and housing and food and all the other things, and apps, that you'll need to be living here and enjoy living here. So please leave a comment and let me know if you'd like more of these. Like the video if you liked it, if it was useful to you, and yeah, I hope that one day if you meet all of them and you love it here, I live in Shenzhen, look me up. Okay, 再见, bye bye.